Hello, I'm Mantastic'c and Fantastic, and today I want to talk about version 20.3.2 update that has just gone live in North America. So, this update can almost be thought of as the update that improved various awakenings in terms of damage output potential. Not only has pad become much more complicated from pretty much everything point of view, but now attack or personal attack multipliers are going a little silly because now I can't really do 2.2 times in my head, but that is the new damage value of L awakenings. So L's are mostly used for unlocking the board on monocolor teams because a lot of the orb changers may not necessarily unlock the board. So it was just kind of there for that purpose. And with this update, the personal damage multiplier is significantly higher. So that means any L-based team is obviously going to do significantly more damage. Maybe you can possibly make an argument that Royal Oak teams may start matching L's instead of Rose. Maybe not. But it is obviously something to take note of, and it also means that the current 8-player PvP dungeon has kind of just changed completely, so to speak, because with this higher attack multiplier from a single L, you can make less combos and go faster, and things may possibly change. In addition to the L Awakening being buffed, crosses have now been buffed from 2.5 to 3 times damage. All the mechanics remain the same. VDP, or Damage Void Piercer, is a bad habit that old pad players say because the lettering was different before, or something along those lines. I forgot, it's old. But attack multipliers now instead of 2.5, 3.5 times. So teams such as Saphira, who are very VDP based heavy, are obviously going to be dealing significantly more damage, which can help out in super gravity dungeons as well, because there are cards with many of these awakenings stacked. Furthermore, every single type of killer awakening is now going from 3 to 5 times damage. So that is quite a significant buff. And it also means that in Super Gravity Dungeons, cards with these killers that obviously line up can still be hitting incredibly hard. Think of it this way. A Killer Awakening is the same damage multiplier as a 10 Combo Awakening, which is on the higher side for sure. Furthermore, all of your killer latents now go from 1.5 to 2 times damage. And that's actually a colossal damage increase when you truly think about it, especially for those 8 latent slot cards who oftentimes will run, say, double damage cap, and then you can slap on the appropriate killer, and now they just gain 2 times damage as opposed to 1.5 times damage. It's quite a significant buff. So anywhere, such as Super Gravity Dungeons, where you need to hit harder, killers and these variety of other awakenings are now hitting significantly harder. In addition to that, we also have various new evolutions and upgrades to existing cards. So these are nice because we can make these evolutions with relatively low effort, simply because it doesn't require, say, a specific gem. It's like the Schnitzel Dragon gem, in this case here for Nephthys. So it makes life a little easier. And for this new weapon assist, you have a combo orb, 3 Dark Rose, and a Dragon Killer. So obviously Dragon type spawns get deleted much more easily. I can think of, say, an MD2 where there's a modest number of dragons at least, or at least the end floor is dragon based. It can help those blob based teams on the sub attribute if it matches, possibly. Maybe not. But even still, 3 extra rows and combo orb can make a significant difference. One thing I want to point out is any weapon assist that gives a specific typing to a card, that is not what I'm supposed to press, that gives specific typing to a card, gives that awakening when you enter the dungeon. It doesn't count towards, say, the multiple different typings dungeons, such as the current title challenge. It doesn't work like that. Same with all attributes, and how a weapon assist that gives a sub attribute of a specific color does not work until you actually enter the given dungeon. And then the active skill tied to Nephthys' weapon assist is piercing through the enemy's damage void for 2 turns, removes the orb lock, and creates 10 light, dark, and heal orbs. It's not enough for the blob because you need 12 for that, so it's a little unfortunate, but it does still trigger the combo orb along with the row, because obviously you can make a row and stick 4 above it, and boom, you got the combo orb. So, I guess there's that merit in that sense, but it'd be nicer if it made, I guess, more, because, it's usually better to trigger blob awakenings when it's actually possible. Machine Noah has received buffs in essentially all her various forms, essentially because with this weapon assist here, it's it's an attack while above and attack while below 50%. So no matter what health threshold your card is currently at, they're receiving some form of damage boosting. It looked kind of silly. I never thought I would see the day that this would appear on another card. I feel like maybe there's one other card. Was it? I can't remember who it was, but it was weird how it went in both directions, and it kind of makes me chuckle to think that it's back again. But the active skill is actually respectable in the sense that it does at least give you attribute absorption cancellation and then makes the whole board into water. So in theory, your, like, say, Norza Kitty teams who need to overcome water absorb at some point can benefit from this. They don't care about the fact that no hearts are generated because they auto heal, so I can see it possibly being useful for that. And the health stat is the main stat for these weapon assists, so like you get more health transfer when you on color assist. May or may not make a difference, but I don't know. I don't have Norza Kitty, unfortunately. For Baldin's new weapon assist, you get a skill boost and a VDP, which is now 3.5 times personal damage for the owning card when they match that perfect 3x3. And it also gives a 4-turn delay and +4 combos for 4 turns. So 4-turn delay is quite nice with a skill boost. That's 5 effective skill boosts. And if the first floor can be delayed, it can allow you to charge up your transforming cards or whatever key active skill you need to do in relative peace. So it's definitely a nice weapon assist to make if you have Baldins to spare. And at this point in time, I'm not really using Baldin for too much, unfortunately. So I feel like I would just make this weapon assist just have the option of it, especially for any VDP style team. For Balboa, this is a weapon assist. I actually, upon seeing this, I went and opened pad and actually was like, I'll make this now so I don't forget to make this, because sometimes I make it into the habit of talking about it and then I might forget about it. So why do I like Balboa's weapon assist? Well, it has 3 team HP awakenings and a regular HP awakening. So it's a colossal amount of health transfer in that sense. So like if you need to hit key health thresholds, it's a tremendous amount of bulk, but the active skill is not a terrible thing if it overcharges, because on an 8-turn cooldown you get a full awoken skill bind and unmatchable bind clear, so essentially a full cleric, because most things are bind immune nowadays, and then 2 turns of 50% damage reduction on top of that. So you can slap this on your cleric card. It overcharges. It's never going to be a bad thing. It just granted a ton of health to your entire team. So I feel like this can be definitely a nice tool to have in your arsenal. And even if it's not necessarily for the overcharged effect, the awakenings itself are quite meaningful. So I think it's a pretty good weapon assist. Like I said, I made it right away to make sure I won't forget, because sometimes I do forget. Next is Yog, who now has a cool red form. And in this red form, they have many 7 combo awakenings. They have 6 7 combo awakenings and a VDP with the capacity to gain another 7 combo or another VDP. So tremendous amounts of damage output can be potentially had here. In theory, like, Elfride teams are one of the few teams that would be able to at least take advantage of the dual color typing, because you're matching those rows, but then, to be fair, almost everything on Elfride teams hits stupendously high amounts of damage when you actually match 3 or 4 rows, so it's not technically necessary, I feel. But the active skill is also unique in its own way, because if I am, like, basically it makes a funky pattern of 9 red and 9 light orbs, and then a 3x4 rectangle of hearts. It's a weird pattern. It gives you a weird board distribution every single time, so I can see it being potentially useful, like, say, in ranking dungeons, potentially, or like any like farming thing where you make easy VTPs. I don't know, it's just like a unique board changer, something cool you might be able to do with it. On a 7-turn cooldown, it's probably not necessary for like other types of content, but because it's such a unique board changer, it makes for easy VDP or easy super follow-up attack as well. It's interesting, I feel, just to have that noted. And then for the weapon assist, it gives you bonus damage for every red combo, every fire combo, every light combo, and rose and super follow-up attack. So, like, again, the main fire light team is Elfride, but they don't really need damage in all honesty. And the active skill doesn't truly solve any problems, I feel, for the most part. And it's not short enough cooldown to keep looping continuously either. For Yog's dark form, which is cool too, they actually have significantly more damage output than you may be thinking about, because I'm just going to pull up Subaki Bot on Discord, and for Yog, they have 4 10 combo awakenings. Like, this is a stupendous amount of personal damage, and massive amounts of damage for each dark or water combo subsequently after the first one. And you might be thinking, well, Ghost Ring has 4 10 combos as well, and the matching sub-attribute, but for Yog, look at Yog's attack stat, 3657 with 120. Ghost Ring is a paltry 1900, so it is more than 1.5 times more personal damage from just a raw damage point of view. And then you have the passive damage as well. Like, it's interesting when I think about it. Like, it's a large amount of personal damage, and the active skill is 5 turns of 7x6 boards. So any like multi-dark combo-based team or even water-based team, because think about it, like quad 10 combo is going to be enough for that to probably double the damage cap on the sub-attribute with relative ease. Probably. And the bigger board makes all of that easier. And then in the future dungeons, there's going to be like penalty board shrinkages. So like this could be a possible way to overcome those. It is a 15 turn cooldown, so it's not truly that practical, I feel, overall. And then for their weapon assist in the dark form, it's a straight up 7 combo with a enhanced dark combo, enhanced water combo, and a 7 combo. So again, doubling personal damage for the owning card, and that active skill, which is now inheritable. So this gives the option of like, let's say it becomes a problem, but it's only a once a dungeon style type of problem. You can utilize this active skill as an inherit, overwrite the board shrinkage, enjoy the big board once again, and then not let it overcharge again, potentially, because I'm assuming you put it on a card with a useful base active skill. So it's interesting. We're getting kind of cool tools, so to speak, from relatively easy to acquire cards. Like, think about the most recent, like, free, like, multi-pull fiesta from, like, a special appreciation Godfest we all had. We log in, we get a bunch of free rolls. Many of those were 6-star Godfest exclusives, if there were Godfest exclusives. So it's nice that 6-star Godfest exclusives are getting some love. In addition to this, I want to just pull up Machine and Noah here, and their personal damage can be incredibly high when you think about it, because they have a Brick Awakening, they have a Brick Awakening through Super Awakenings, and they have 4 attack while above 50%. Their attack stat is quite tiny overall, unfortunately, but at the same time, with that much personal damage, it's technically quite high still. The active skill is a full cleric active skill in the sense that it clears... Okay, it only clears Awoken Bind and Unmatchable, but it removes the board lock and changes all orbs to water orbs. So I felt like the weapon assist might be like a bit more practical overall for like Norza Kitties, because you oftentimes need attribute absorption cancellation. Don't know if you need it as a sub necessarily, but again, it will hit super hard in super gravity dungeons even, so it's possibly something, and it's at least farmable. Awoken Machine Noah works in the opposite direction. Its attack while below 50%, and they can gain, again, another Blob Awakening, so immense personal damage once again. It will cut your health in half and then makes a full board of water orbs. So I feel like just having the option of, I don't know, it doesn't give any absorption cancellation. It's kind of like, which way do you want to be, so to speak. I guess Norza Kitty's technically auto heal afterwards, so I guess that's not as good to have attack while below for Norza Kitty. For Nephthys in her current form here, her active skill has been buffed to a 4-turn cooldown, along with 2 times attack for this particular card and dark cards for 2 turns. Removes orb block and makes a bottom row of dark. It's not enough to guarantee the VDP or the blob or the combo orb awakening, so you have to use it alongside something else, but it can be a nice low cooldown attack buff generator, and for any VDP or blob based team, because she gets a blob awakening, will obviously benefit from the large amounts of personal damage she could offer. And then her leader skill, I guess, might be nice for like swipe farming even, because it's 30 times attack and damage reduction with 6+ linked dark orbs. But the problem is you don't get the auto follow attack unless you actually match 3+ attributes. So if it's something that doesn't have any kind of like resolves, this could work, because it's a high attack multiplier with relatively, it's unconditional, so to speak, and they do large amounts of personal damage. For Baldin's form here, he has been upgraded to have potentially 2 blob awakenings. This is becoming almost more normalized nowadays, and now they're even adding other damage awakenings alongside of it. So the killers are another 5 times damage against their respective typing, so potentially large amounts of damage. And the active skill is a 2-turn void, damage void, and 2 turns of attack buffing dragon and machine types. So, along with half damage. So you get void, damage, void for 2 turns, 50% damage reduction for 2 turns, and an attack buff. This can potentially work in MD1 if I really think about it. I feel like the void spacings is respectable enough that you can benefit from this aspect. It can lower the health thresholds needed when you push the boss below 50% health for the first time. It does give an attack buff, and all Shiva dragons are, well, as the name implies, dragons, so they gain damage output from it. So, like, I feel like it can definitely have a place on, like, Shiva dragon teams for MD1. Like, I feel like it could possibly work. So it's nice having more tools and options, so to speak. The leader skill needs to match fire and dark, so that may be a little bit awkward potentially, but at the same time, it's an easy to trigger leader skill. You just need to match fire and dark if you have ways to generate those orbs. But I feel like it's just more like a sub potential for the MD1, potentially like Leo Shiva dragons. For Baldin's other form, their Mega Awoken form, their stats have been improved, and their active skill is a 4-turn cooldown that gives 4 times attack for dragon and machines for a single turn, and changes light and hazards, well, light and jammers to fire, and wood and poison to dark orbs. So there's your like fire dark generator on a 4-turn cooldown with lots of VDP potential damage and a 10 combo on that, and killers. I think it's kind of niche and kind of situational overall, but it is a reasonably easy to use leader skill at least, I guess, because it's just be 2 times stats for fire cards, and then you get more damage of 3+ combos and halves damage. It adds 2 combos from just fire and dark match. So it's like not the hardest leader skill to trigger, I guess, which can be nice. And again, these evolutions are easy to make. They don't require like super ridiculous gems, so like I guess newer accounts could benefit. Balboa in this form here would be a potential like kind of pseudo-ish healing stick for mono green blob teams, and it does give you a 2-turn shield on a 6-turn cooldown. Like, it's not short enough to be loopable, but it's not outrageously impossible to trigger potentially, and they do have large amounts of personal damage, especially against god and attacker types. Balboa has yet another upgrade to one of their forms. Like, Balboa got a lot of love this time around, I feel. They have triple 10 combo and potential to get quad 10 combo, so immense amounts of personal damage, especially against attacker and god type spawns. There are 4 skill boosts, and the active skill is that same 2 turns, 50% damage reduction for on a 6-turn cooldown, so it's not bad at all. It also voids the enemy's defense, which may or may not be relevant in some dungeons, so immense personal damage, some shielding, possibly enough to keep yourself alive, and yeah, basically just immense personal damage. And then Pixel Balboa got a buff as well. Like, it's kind of like everyone gets a buff for Balboa, and he just really, really hates balance type spawns. And if you're a balance type spawn, or you know there's a dungeon where there's a balance type spawn, Pixel Balboa will do obliviously large amounts of damage because they can have 4 balance killers, so that's 5 to the power of 4, which is 625 times personal damage. You have a 7 combo and a VDP, like colossal amounts of damage. And not only that, their attack stat is huge. At level 120, they're actually 14,000 attack. So pretty spectacular and outrageous in that sense. So like, that's kind of cool. Like, again, it's nice having, I guess, niche cards that could potentially fulfill one weird role really well. Like, if you're extremely good at one thing, that's a good thing when you really think about it. So Pixel Balboa, stupendous damage with green or water combos. It's not it's like, that's interesting, I'd say, overall. Royal Oak's weapon assist has been buffed to have 2 L's, bind immunity, a team RCV, and 2 water Rose. Gung-Ho knows that we'd like to play them with Rose, and this is kind of like interesting to see it being acknowledged, so to speak. And the stat transfer is much higher, especially in the attack stat department. And then the active skill has been buffed to give you 2 turns of haste along with an extremely large attack buff. If you have enough L's, it can be immense because it's 50% for each L. Huge attack buff and 2 turns of haste. And it's L's and Rose along with the healing, which is probably what Royal Oak really needed anyways. So like, it's a pretty great weapon assist for Royal Oak teams when you think about it. So that's pretty nice. And then Sharius, the blue Sharius, has 2 L's, a skill boost, and regular team HP from their weapon assist now, and the stats have been slightly changed, but it's an active skill on a 7-turn cooldown that gives you 35% damage reduction for 6 turns on a 7-turn cooldown that also gives 1 turn of haste. It's not quite a looping shield, but it's pretty darn close when you think about it. So if you inherit this active skill on top of someone with a relatively low base cooldown, it's going to be able to charge up with relative ease, so to speak. You use it, you enjoy 6 turns of damage reduction, you're probably going to start using that base active skill once again. I think it's a pretty nice weapon assist overall, and obviously Royal Oak teams benefit from the L's, and I guess any other monocolor team does as well, because you do want to have at least 1 L, I'd say, on a given like every given team that doesn't have easy access to board unlocking. And then finally we come to Super Aurora Dragon, who has 2-star rarity, which can be potentially relevant for your, say, Flamey and Bubbly and Woodsy, like the new 7-star Godfest exclusives because they need to have team rarity of 28 or less. So it's only your leader and your subs, not the friend's leader. So you don't have to worry about your friend contributing 8 stars. It doesn't count. But you have to find 4 subs with 20 rarity or less, which can be difficult. And Super Aurora Dragon with only 2-star rarity makes life a bit easier in that sense. They have okay stats, but if you make a VDP, which when you think about it could be potentially viable or possible, because when you do use their active skill to make fire, water, wood, and hearts, there is a chance you get 9 water orbs. Like, it's not a bad chance that it could happen modestly often. So maybe that could work out there. They can bring at least 2 skill boosts, but when you make the VDP, huge amounts of damage. So it's interesting to say the least. It's water, so I'm pretty sure the damage is huge, even though the attack stat isn't truly great. So it's interesting. Again, farmable stuff that like might have a usage. So maybe keep that in mind if you have Flamey Bubbly. But with that being said, those are all the new and exciting updates that just went live in North America. There is going to be the New Year's event, but I'm going to do that in a separate video because this is already long and exciting enough as it is. So with that being said, let me know what you, lovely ladies and gentlemen, found most exciting about this update in the comments section down below. Which new evolution or buff you find most relevant, and yeah, elves are pretty cool now. Regardless of all that, hopefully you all have a truly fantastic day. I wish you guys luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.